Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here. Today I've got a special treat for you guys. Now this is one of the top 4 matches at Massachusetts Regionals in the Senior Division. Game 1 against Paul Chua, 2013 Senior National Champion, and Thomas. Paul is using a rain team of Politoed, Kingdra, Amoonguss, Kangaskhan, Mawile, Talonflame, and we're going to see Thomas's team, Ferrothorn, Tyranitar, Scizor, Kangaskhan, Reuniclus, and Hydreigon. Thomas has a bunch of interesting Pokemon, especially Reuniclus and Scizor, and Thomas actually knocked my brother, Brendan Zhang, out of Top Cut, and in that, I saw that Thomas was running a really heavily Trick Room team based off Reuniclus, Scizor, and Ferrothorn, but Paul doesn't have the best matchup here because Thomas has Tyranitar to stop the rain, and Ferrothorn, but of course Paul's team is actually not entirely rain. He only has 2 Pokemon, Politoed and Kingdra, that actually rely on it. The rest, Kangaskhan, Amoonguss, Mawile, and Talonflame, are all there to beat the threats that anyone actually might have. So in this case, we'll probably see Paul not utilize rain as much, probably in the back. Politoed, of course, is always good to have anyway to as a Trick Room Pokemon, because Politoed is actually relatively slow, and Kingdra is always good as a Dragon type too, especially with Amoonguss support. I wouldn't use Kingdra by itself, but with Amoonguss, it gets a lot better, I think. You either need Politoed and Amoonguss. You see here, Paul makes a nice play right from the start by leading with Talonflame and Mawile, so he doesn't want to go with Rain right away, and that's the right way, if you ask me, to play Rain in VGC 2014. Instead, he goes with Mawile and Reuniclus, and Mawile is a great counter to Thomas's entire team. Because it's slower than most things, so it punishes Thomas if he does decide to set up Trick Room. And in this case, he's got a really nice lead matchup here against Reuniclus and Tyranitar on the first turn. Talonflame Choice Banded here for Paul is probably gonna want to U-turn out as it gets super effective on both Pokemon, but either Pokemon might protect, and Tyranitar might be just able to pick up the KO onto Talonflame right from the start. So let's see what both players decide to do. Mama is going to Mega Evolve here, but Reuniclus is going to go for the Protect on the first turn, blocking any potential U-turns. Talonflame does go for the U-turn, but it goes into the Protect, so Thomas is going to get a nice lead right away from the start, as he is able to knock out this Talonflame, even with that Intimidate. Of course, Tyranitar, Rock type, and does get that Stab boost, and Talonflame's so frail as it is knocked out. Mawile isn't going to flinch here, and it is going to get an Iron Head off onto this Tyranitar, but Tyranitar is pretty darn clutch, and it hangs on with just 1 HP, or whatever looks like 1 HP. So Paul's down 4-3 now, but he got a lot of good damage off onto Tyranitar, and Thomas really has no check to this Mawile. His team of Ferrothorn, Tyranitar, Scizor, Kangaskhan, Reuniclus, and Hydreigon is actually very weak to it. He really needs either Fire Blast from that Tyranitar or Ferrothorn to win, but Paul basically wins the game with this Mawile single-handedly right from the start, if you ask me in team preview. And Tyranitar's going to go for a Protect here to try to survive, but Paul's actually going to attack into that with that Play Rough, so good play there by Thomas to protect, and Scald is going to go off onto Reuniclus, but Reuniclus is actually going to Trick Room. This is a play I really disagree with. You're only helping Paul when you set up the Trick Room, especially with Mawile and Politoed out. Don't know what he was exactly going for there, especially because Thomas doesn't have any heavy, Trick Room Pokemon. A lot of times you see teams use Trick Room to set up a Mega Evolution like Ampharos or Abomasnow or even Hammer Arm Kangaskhan. Thomas does have Kangaskhan, but at this point, he has a really poor matchup, as Paul just goes for the Sucker Punch onto Reuniclus, picking up the KO there. No surprise there, Shiny Reuniclus unfortunately going down, and Politoed is slower than this Tyranitar, so Politoed's going to pick up the KO on Tyranitar. So you see there, Thomas is just losing all momentum. Whatever momentum he did have, completely gone now that he set up Trick Room, and Trick Room helps Paul more than it does help Thomas. So it's a really questionable play on his end, but like I said, Thomas really has no way to beat this Mawile, at least from what I see, especially as that Tyranitar doesn't seem like it is a special variant. Thomas is going to bring in Kangaskhan on Hydreigon here, and he really needs to pick up this KO on Mawile, so, Fire Blast is a move on Hydreigon, but because Paul's team is nicely designed, Politoed's Drizzle ability removes the fire basically super effectiveness onto that Mawile, meaning that fire type attacks like Fire Blast and Flamethrower are reduced back to neutral damage against that Mawile. Kangaskhan's going to Mega Evolve here, but it might just be too late as Mawile kind of beats Kangaskhan and Hydreigon. But Kangaskhan's going to go for this Fake Out onto Mawile, obviously Mawile threatening the Play Rough 1-hit KO onto that Hydreigon. But Thomas really needs to KO this Hydreigon right now, otherwise he's basically, Thomas needs to KO the Mawile, otherwise he's done for. Scald's going to go off onto Kangaskhan, does a nice 40%, and Thomas targeting Politoed with Dragon Pulse instead of trying to get rid of that Mawile. And you see there, Politoed is built to be very, very bulky, able to tank that without much issue. And now Paul's basically got the game won. He's got a slower Politoed and a very slow Mawile against the Kangaskhan and a Hydreigon. I would say Mawile wins this with just 1-on-2, really, especially under Trick Room. As Kangaskhan goes for a last attempt Sucker Punch onto this Politoed. Does a nice amount the first time around, but Politoed's not going to have any of that. Going to heal back with that Citrus Berry all the way to 107 HP, and the second one won't do very much damage as Politoed hangs on with a nice 76 HP. It's going to go for an Ice Beam here onto that Kangaskhan, surprisingly. Not really sure why Paul went for that. Scald would do more damage with the stab and the rain, but it's going to pick up the double KO regardless, so it didn't really matter there. As Hydreigon revealing itself to have the Focus Blast, but at this point, whether that hit or not, the game is pretty much over, as Paul does have Mawile and Politoed. Mawile definitely would have survived that Hydreigon's Focus Blast regardless. Politoed's going to switch out here, just to make sure the rain lasts a bit longer. Really no point, as Mawile's going to win this game anyway with this play rough. So Paul's a player that likes to make switches even when it doesn't really matter. But, you know, even if that play rough missed, Paul pretty much had the game won. And so that's game one of the best of three. We'll see how Thomas adapts in the next game in a best 2 of 3 series at top 4 at Massachusetts Regionals. Peace, guys.